Vocabulary. There's tons of it in English. Students always ask,
how can I remember it all?
there are 2 steps to learning new vocabulary. First, you need to choose which words to learn because you can't learn them all. Second, you need to organize your vocabulary in one place and practice regularly. We're going to talk about step 2 in this video. One of the best ways to organize your vocabulary is by using a vocabulary notebook. Choose a notebook that's easy for you to carry around and use in your daily life. What should you write in your vocabulary notebook? There's a lot to learn about every word, but you shouldn't try to include it all.
I don't want to miss any details.
Didn't that take you a long time to write?
Yeah, and it was difficult to look up all the information I want.
How often do you read and review all that information?
Not often. I get bored and my head starts to hurt.
How much of that do you really remember?
I guess not very much.
If you try to include too much information, first of all, you won't want to continue using your notebook. Your goal is to learn vocabulary, so you must not make it a painful experience. Secondly, you'll have a hard time remembering all the information. Learning a language takes time, so you can't expect to learn everything at once. Instead, you need to focus on the most important information first. Finally, you won't be able to use the notebook to easily review your words. We'll show you a nice way to organize the information so you can practice the words using just an index card.
Okay, I get it. I've got to keep it simple. So what kind of information should I include?
You should include these 5 things. 1. The word with the number of syllables and primary stress. 2. The part of speech. 3. A translation into your native language. 4. A simple English definition or synonym. And 5. An example. Let's talk about each one of these things. Number 1. The word with the number of syllables and primary stress. Let's talk about syllables first. A syllable is a part of a word that has one vowel sound. When we pronounce words, we divide them into syllables. Look at this word video. It has 3 syllables. Video. How can you count syllables? Try clapping your hands when you say a word.
Teacher, important, information, read.
All English words have one syllable with primary stress. Primary means most important or main. The syllable with the primary stress is louder!
Longer!
Higher!
Clearer!
Listen to the word primary. How many syllables is it? Primary. 3 syllables. Which syllable sounds like it has primary stress? That is, it's louder, longer, higher, and clearer. Primary. Primary. The first syllable, pri, has the primary stress. Listen to the following words again and hear the primary stress.
Teacher, important, information, read.
Let's do a little practice. Listen to these words. Mark the syllables and the primary stress. I'll say each word twice. Number 1, student, student. Number 2, vocabulary, vocabulary. Number 3, apply, apply. Number 4, syllable, syllable. Number 5, watches, watches. Number 6, kissed, kissed. Number 7, educational, educational. Here are the answers. This shows you the number of syllables and the location of the primary stress. How did you do? How can you be sure about the syllable and stress pattern of words? Check your dictionary. Almost all dictionaries have this information. The second thing you need to know about a word is the part of speech. The part of speech tells you if the word is a noun, pronoun, verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, or interjection. Each part of speech follows different grammar rules, so you must know this information about a word in order to use it correctly. Let's go over each one. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. A pronoun is something that replaces a noun. There are different types of pronouns. You can review this chart if you need. Verbs are actions, such as run, eat, or think. Anything that you do. An adjective describes a noun. Here we have a kitten. It's a cute kitten. He has blue eyes, a small nose, and soft fur. An adverb describes a verb. This man is driving fast and dangerously. She's talking loudly. And this boy never eats his vegetables. A preposition tells you something about time, place, or location. There are many prepositions. This picture shows some examples of location prepositions. A conjunction joins words, sentences, or phrases together. For example, here are many sentences written separately. I like cats. I like dogs. They're good companions. I don't like snakes. I've never owned one. We can combine all these sentences together with conjunctions. I like cats and dogs because they're good companions, but I don't like snakes, so I've never owned one. An interjection is something that expresses strong feelings, like surprise. Something like, "Oh my God," "Wow," or "Hey." Let's do a quick practice. Name the part of speech for each of the following words. Here are the answers. How did you do? The third thing you want to include in your vocabulary notebook is a translation into your native language. This is a quick and easy way to understand and remember the word. However, your native language won't always match English meanings 100%. This Japanese example shows you a word that doesn't have a 100% equal match word in English. Examples like these are why we also want to include number 4, a simple English definition. Now, the important thing is this word simple. Let's look at this word efficient. Compare these two definitions. They come from two different dictionaries. Which one is easier for you to understand? You probably said the second one. This definition is much more simple. You should copy this one, the one you understand. Many students just copy long, difficult definitions from English to English dictionaries without really understanding them. This is pointless. Instead, use a dictionary designed for English language learners. Here are 2 suggestions for good online learners' dictionaries. The first is LDOCEonline.com. This is Longman's Dictionary of Contemporary English online. The second is learnersdictionary.com. Both of these sites are designed for people learning English, so the language is simpler. You can try both and see which one you like better. The 5th and final thing you should include in your vocabulary notebook is an example. You should always include an example or 2 to help you remember how to really use the word. All dictionaries contain some examples and common uses of a word. Let's go back to this word primary. You can choose to write a full sentence, like this one, or just a phrase. Write them.
But teacher, most words have multiple meanings. Look at this one.
Okay.
Don't I need to copy them all to really know the word?
No. Remember, you want to keep things simple. Start with the meaning that you need now. Where did you find this word? Okay, so the meaning you want is this first one, to ask for admission or assistance. You should copy this meaning and this example. Now that you know what you need, let's talk about organization in the notebook. First, we want to divide the page in half. Simply fold the page over so that you now have 2 sections. Now start writing your words. I'm going to use number 1, and I'm going to start with the word compelling. First write the word, then write the number of syllables. I use a little dot in between each syllable. Also mark the primary stress. Compelling. Then write the part of speech at the end. Try to keep all this information on the left side.
to the right of this, write a translation into your native language. I'm going to use Japanese. Excuse my poor handwriting here. Underneath the word compelling, you should skip a space and then write a simple English definition. Then, to the right of that, you can write your example. So now you've finished your first entry. When you want to put your next word, you should skip at least 2 spaces and then start your next word. The reason you want to leave some space is so that later, if you learn more about the word, you can go back and add that information.
Now, why don't you try entering these words into your vocabulary notebook? Be sure to include all the necessary information. Pause this video while you try it. When you finish, start the video again, and you can see an example of how these entries might look. Here are examples of how the entries might look in your notebook.
Research tells us 2 things about learning vocabulary. Number 1 is that retrieval practice is one of the best forms of practice. Retrieval practice is when you try to remember something before simply looking at the answer. The second thing that research tells us about vocabulary is that you need to see, use, hear, and think about the word many times before you can learn it. We can do both of these things with just our vocabulary notebook and a simple index card. Take your index card and cut the top quarter out. We can use this special card to practice words in 8 different ways. First, let's talk about vertical pairings. Vertical means up and down. Remember how we divided the page into 2? Fold it in, and now we can practice with the word and the English meaning. Just use your card and cover the meaning of the first word. Try to remember the meaning. Then just move the card down to check if you were right. Continue down the page. There's our next word, compelling. What did that mean? Oh, very interesting or exciting. Yep, I was right. Work down the page. You can try each word until you finish. Now, if you want to do the opposite, you can look at the meaning and try to remember the English word. There it is. Keep moving up the page. Again, always try to remember the meaning or the word before you look at it. That's the goal of retrieval practice. And you go up, 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 up till you finish. Now, when you want to practice the other 2 things, flip it over and do the same thing. Now I can practice the translation and the example. So, here's the word translated. I try to remember an example. There it is. My next word, I try to remember an example. Again, work down the page. Same as before, you can now do the opposite. Look at the example and try to remember what's the translation in your native language. Oh, you just keep going up. So those are the vertical pairings. Let's talk about horizontal pairings. Horizontal means across. Let's say I want to practice the English word and my translation. Use the card so that only the English word is visible. Try to remember the translation into your native language. Then pull down to check. Continue doing this so that you see the English word, and then you try to remember the translation. Again, go down the page. You can flip the card over. Now you can do the opposite, the translation and your word. So do you remember the English word for journalism? Well, it's journalism. So keep on going down the page. Again, all you have to do is move around the card and you can practice different pairs. So here you could practice the example with the English meaning. Again, move up. There's your example. Do you remember the English meaning? There it is. Those are the 8 ways that you can practice using your notebook.